Welcome to O's Across the Pond, the show covering all things Baltimore Orioles, but from a fresh European perspective. Join us for the highs, the lows, the heartbreaks, and everything in between. Whether you're a die-hard fan or just discovering Birdland, this is your home for passionate, across-the-pond Orioles talk. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to O's Across the Pond. This is a new kind of series that we're going to be running once a week, where me and Andy sit down, talk about some other stuff that is going on across the league. You know, trade deadline is coming up. We'll look at some of the debates across the league. You know, there's a massive one at the moment. Raleigh, Aaron Judge for the MVP race. We'll also, you know, have a look at and keep the focus on what's going on with the Orioles as well. This is an Orioles-based podcast. We are going to keep that. This is just something that the both of us both just enjoy talking ball, talking big leagues, and we're going to give it a good go and see how it goes, aren't we, Andy?
Absolutely. Something a bit different. Obviously, we keep O's oriented, but there's so much more to baseball than just the O's, apparently. But we would be amiss if we didn't talk. We're recording this midday on Saturday, and we've both woken up to a massive story in Birdland. I don't know if you want to give us a bit of a catch up. It's an exclusive to this podcast that the Orioles came back from 6-0 down. Yeah,
so last night I think it was on Apple TV. You know, of all the things the commissioner of the MLB has done,
it's probably the worst, isn't it?
Deal with Apple
for regulars. Yeah.
It's just for people that, you know, no matter where they are. I know there's complaints about, you know, people in America who watch it on Apple TV. Well, who are forced to watch it on Apple TV. It's not good. It's taken away kind of from the die-hard fans.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind it being on Apple TV, and you still have the option to watch it on your local broadcast, or for, you know, people like us on across the pond who could still watch it on MLB TV. You know, but yeah, it's not great. So last night I think it was a 12:05 start, or was it?
Yep.
12:30. Yeah, 5:12.
5:12 in rainy Baltimore.
Yeah, so I'd actually, I knew we were playing, but I'd lost track of the time, so I was comfy on the couch at about 11:30. I've been rewatching the great series Line of Duty for the second time. So it was just getting good again. I was like, and then the phone went. It was Tomoyuki Shigano about to start pitching, so that's your kind of 15-minute warning, isn't it, on the MLB after down tools and
wake up.
Tune in, yeah. So
get a coffee.
So I was like, yeah, I'll watch this, and then something happened in Line of Duty, and I'd forgot. So anyway, I got it. It was the bottom of the first. I saw that, and I thought, in between innings, I was going to watch a couple more minutes of Line of Duty. Totally forgot about the game, and then I saw a text in the late night Orioles WhatsApp chat. Something along the lines of, this is an effing disaster already. And I thought,
indeed,
hang on. So I flicked back over onto Apple TV, and I caught the back end of Tomoyuki Shigano getting whacked all over the park for 6 runs in the inning. And I thought, there is no way back. So, look, I'll admit it. I thought, I'll go back to watching TV. So I watched TV, and then I saw a few more messages. And I thought, ooh, what's going on here? And I saw it was to be put 4 back on them in the straight away in the third, and I fell asleep. So waking up this morning, possibly like yourself, and you would have seen the messages and gone, what's going on here? I did not expect to see a 22-8 scoreline.
Not at all. It's very un-Orioles like, so much so that that's their second highest in our history, and the best comeback win in I think in MLB history, that no one losing 6 has then gone on to win by 14 runs. So, I mean, we'll pick up a bit more on the Sunday normal pod where we'll talk about what exactly is going to come out of this game. But full credit to them, they didn't stop hitting all night, and it was very bizarre watching the condensed game and only seeing about half of the runs because they ran out of time. So always nice, but we would be amiss if we hadn't gone through it.
Yeah, there was some huge performances there. Colton Cowser,
3 doubles,
outstanding. Concerning points, Jordan Westberg.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he obviously sprained his hand or finger 3-4 days ago, missed 2 games. He's come back.
And done it again.
It's just the re-aggravation of it, and if he's got to sit in a game or two, then we just don't want him going on the AL.
Kobe Mayo, first career home run, and everyone's going, "Oh, it's off a position player." Don't care. No one remembers that.
What?
The ball's in. He's got, and he really did find it exciting. His reaction was great, superb.
I thought his at-bat in the top of the second was vital to that game turning around.
It was the kickoff, wasn't it? It started everything for us, and full credit to them. And the smiles were there everywhere, and Camden Yards was rocking. Let me remind myself, it's only 28 days till I'll be at that lovely venue watching some baseball, and maybe yourself, Thomas, as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Still maybe, but no, if we can use this as a kick-on, then great. But it will come, as we talk through some of the trade stuff, there is still this open question. Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Are we neither? Who knows? No one knows, and you can read both sides of the story, depending which beat reporter you're listening to. The opposite can be said for every single one of our trade chips or bringing people in. So it's a fun time to be an Orioles fan.
Yeah, I'm still of the thinking of when we had Ryan Ripken on last week, and he said it is just a case of that they are just going to be retooling now. To a lot of people, with the players that are presumably, at the time we record after last night, with 7 games back on wild card.
Yep,
that probably puts you more on the. If you can get back to 5, I think it'll just be a case of, the likes of the players that are going to be free agents in the summer. You said Cedric Mullins, them type of players, if you can move them on. Being at 7 games back, you do start to lean more back into sellers. But I think it's going to be, as Ryan said, a retooling kind of selling and see what you can get back and prepare for next season.
Agreed.
On one of the, he's had a lot of flack, but he's also been injured. He was brought in the off-season. Is Gary Sanchez playing him way into a possible trade move?
I see it because he's batting .250 now, and stats since he came back from injury, 374, and he's playing every day, which he hasn't done for a long time. Let's face it. So there are teams. San Diego Padres need a catcher. Their catching's been atrocious. It's very hard to find a catcher mid-season. But if you've got one that is primarily a backup catcher, but is really batting well, he could come in for half a season and do a job. He's not that expensive. I know we pay, I think, $9 something million for a season, but he's a free agent at the end of it. So it's a short-term possibility, but you'd still have to give something up for it, and it all depends what the something is. But I can see him, and I would have said that the Boston Red Sox as well. Now, I know we'd be reluctant to trade to the Red Sox normally, but they're pretty awful at the moment, so they're not going to go and win the division. They're not going to do anything silly. They need catching help as well. So there's a possibility, and if you can fleece them for a good prospect or half a prospect, it's a possibility. So there's 2 teams that need a catcher that I can see, the obvious teams, and he really potentially could be that an unexpected trade chip, I think.
Where does that leave the Orioles, though? Adley is likely going to be out for a few more weeks after the All-Star break with this oblique injury.
Yeah, I mean, oblique
Maverick
injuries
Hanley
should be back.
Is it? Does Sanchez only go if we are out of the race then? Because I don't think you can trade him away if you are 4 or 5 games back at the deadline, knowing that you've still not got Adley for another 2-3 weeks and could go down again.
I think that's the only question, isn't it? If we continue, I mean, we're 5-5 over the last 10. Still not terrible. I think we were 7-3 over the previous 10. So we're still just making slow improvements. I think that the next 2 series are going to be critical for us because, or the series we're in against the Rays, if we can win that series and win the next series, we're only going to be maybe 5 games back of the wild card, and that's just on that edge of where you go, you know what, we better not get rid of him because there's other teams that could capitulate. We've seen the Red Sox fall through the floor. There are others that are going to do the same. If we can be that team coming out, it's always nice to be the team arriving in the playoffs on a good run. But I agree with you. I think we've got to have some positive news on Adley and see what other catchers are stashed in AAA that can help us without mentioning the Samuel word, which I really, really can't see happening before September.
No, absolutely not. I think you're right there. So, with that being said, we've sat down this week and we've had a look at players and then organisations and their needs and where do we think we could see them going. We haven't gone down the route. Well, I certainly haven't. I've been busy. I know you've been busy as well, Andy, but I haven't gone down the route of what we could get back for these players or what teams could get back for these players. I have just gone for player, position, and where I think they could land, and who needs them the most. So, yeah. Andy, you have been looking at bat and position players. Who needs what and where are they going to go?
Indeed, and I've based it around what Orioles players are around as potential trade chips as well, because it's key for us to understand where they might be going. The top one might be a surprise, but I think the New York Yankees are in need of a second baseman. They've got DJ LeMahieu in. He's 35, not the best defensive player. Well, in fact, quite a few of the Yankees aren't very good defensive players, which we always take great. But they do need to upgrade. But there aren't many second basemen out on the market at the moment. Now, obviously, we've got Jackson Holiday. That ain't happening, so that we can forget that. But we've got cover all around. Second base, not necessarily a strong position for us. You've got Ramon Urias is coming into people's trade talks a little bit, but I don't see him going unless Jordan Westberg is fit, because we lost him last night in the game with another finger injury. Urias is one of the unsung heroes. We like the 2 Ramones, as we know. Urias and Laureano.
Outstanding last night, the pair of them.
Absolutely. Again, they are the 2... The Ramone brothers, as we're going to call them now. So we'll come up with a song from the Ramones to "I'll Be There for You" or something very similar to that. But Ramon Urias can play second base. He's primarily a third baseman, or we've always played him at third. He's a utility player. Or you've always got your mate, and I know you'd love to see him disappear, Jorge Mateo. Now, I don't think we'll get much back for him, but it will at least release the burden on my co-presenter today if he were to be traded away. And I think we'd actually quite enjoy him being traded to the Yankees, because we know that he could do some damage there for us as an outside agent for the Orioles.
I don't know. I don't know anything about this burden that people talk about. it would be a burden on me if I felt it was likely. Hence why I made a bet.
Yeah.
Jeff in the group will probably say once Mateo's being traded, but he stayed at the AL East, the bet still stands. Jeff,
absolutely. In fact, if he stays in the MLB, the bet still stands. Even if he goes to Japan, I think the bet still stands.
I just
lifetime.
I can't see Jorge Mateo.
No, I can't. I mean, I threw him in at the end because we've been trying to get rid of him the whole season. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But we may need him if someone else goes, because defensively, as long as he's in the infield, he's not a centre fielder by any stroke of the imagination. Whilst he can just about play there, he is limited. I think Urias is the more likely candidate, but he's under team control next year, so that will have to come with a reasonable amount of burden coming our way, a good prospect or two, and we don't want to split the Ramones up. No. So that was my first one. The other one is across the subway at the New York Mets. Now they've got loads of players, just like we have on the DL, but they need a centre fielder and potentially a DH as well. So I see them as potential suitors because they should have quite a lot of ability to give us things back. But if you look at Cedric Mullins and potentially Ryan O'Hearn, who we've been talking about trades for the whole season since they've been defensively, Cedric would be a good fit for them. Offensively, not so much. He's very much hot and cold. He can have a good month and then he'll be cold for 3 months and then have a massive month. He isn't the player that is consistent. And O'Hearn, who is almost certainly going to be maybe even our only position player in the All-Star team this year, I think he'll be gone. I think we'll get a decent haul for him. The Mets could be suitors for him because they need to be a team that are near the top of their division for their payroll and their fans. So that would be an interesting one for me. I think the Mets are a likely trade candidate for the Orioles.
Definitely. Do you think they put a package together to take the pair of them?
Very possible, because if you take both, it's going to take not a lot of payroll. They're not expensive players, but it will take. Neither are under team control next year, so you may get 2 or 3 A-ball prospects. I would imagine we'll go for pitchers rather than position players because we've got bucket loads of them, and it would open up the roster for Mayo to stay, for Samuel to come up, for Heston to come back up. And there are others that are doing really well at AAA as well that are just being held back a little bit, and we could really see maybe for the rest of the season what they're really made of. So I think you could get a reasonable amount. You probably end up with one that sticks with us for long term, knowing all of these trades. You get 3 or 4 players and only one of them's actually half decent in the end.
Fair enough. So for my first 2, I've been looking at starting pitchers, relief pitchers. I might throw a closer in there, which I don't think is going to go down well. However,
no, I agreed.
So the first one, Sandy Alcantara. Obviously, he missed he had Tommy John, so he was out of all. He missed all of 2024. The issue with this trade is he has 2 years left on his deal at the end of this season, so it's going to take a substantial, I think, to give up for him. He's had struggles this season. He's been tinkering a bit with his pitching. His ERA is elevated at 6.69 and a 1.46 whip. He's got 59 strikeouts on the season. However, in June, he's posted a 2.74 ERA across 4 starts. So has he started turning the corner? Now,
I think he has. I think a lot, especially all those coming back from Tommy John. It takes a while.
Yeah.
If we look at Felix, it took him a month and a half before we got back to where he should have been, and he's a starting pitcher, so that's a lot more strain on it, and we'll see it when we come with Grayson, with Kyle Bradish. I mean, John Means never really came back. No. It's a tough one. If you do come back, then it takes a good couple of months for you to get to your rhythm and to get your body used to doing all of the strains and
the everyday stuff.
Absolutely, the everyday stuff, 100 pitches, etc.
And I think maybe that's why, with obviously, I mean, especially with Kyle Bradish, why they are so keen to get him in before the end of the season
Yep.
to get him back into that routine. So then obviously I know he's going to have the off season, but he's probably, he's still going to work. I think
Indeed.
so come next season, he doesn't have that month
absolutely.
or two back.
What you don't want to do is build yourself up during spring training as a start, as Felix did. What you want to do is to try and get him in towards the end of the season when it's for us less meaningful games probably, and then build yourself up from there so that you go into the off season at least having your body back in a normal-ish rhythm. But I agree, and Grayson, I mean, he's been out for a long time as well. I think Bradish is about a week behind Grayson in the looks, so we could get them both back, which opens up the door for others potentially when we come to the trade deadline. Absolutely.
So Sandy Alcantara, I've got him possibly going to the Cubs, Astros. Did have the Red Sox as a shooter.
Yeah.
However, they are starting to reap the effects of trading away a top 10 power hitter. They had a bit of a bounce, but as you said before we came on air, Andy, they've now lost 6 or 7 on the bounce.
Yeah, six in a row, 3 and 7 over the last 10. Not good. Clubhouse doesn't seem to be in a good position. I don't think the big trade they did hurt the clubhouse much, because I don't think he was a clubman anyway. To players that say, I'm not going to play here, I'm not going to play there. Do you want that type of player in your organisation?
Yeah.
Probably not. Depending on your managerial style. If you can manage the big people, it's a bit like football, soccer, where some teams can have those big players that are bigger than the club potentially, and they can manage them.
Yeah.
Others can't, and you need and managers the same. There are some managers that can manage the big people, and there are some managers that can't. And the managers that can't tend to do really well on the smaller teams because they have less baggage. And that may be when we talk in a future pod about potentially the Orioles managerial situation for next year, which I think will be a good one for us to start picking up on where we think that might go. Are you looking for that big hitting manager, or are you looking for big hitting players? And it's a very different thing. But I don't think the Red Sox are in the market to buy anyone. I see them absolutely as get as much as you can for as much as you can and rebuild.
I've also got possibly Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays are in a very similar position to us, where they need starting pitching depth. The Dodgers, look, other than the O's, the Dodgers have been absolutely battered on the IL with pitching injuries. However, is that something that they show? Because it seems to be that any pitcher that goes to LA and to the Dodgers are only 10 innings away from Tommy John. It seems to be they seem to grind them into the ground.
They do, and you've got to look at behind the scenes there as well, the situation. It's probably just a bit of bad luck, but they can afford it. Let's face it. They could have 50 people on the IL and they'd still be top of the NL West, because just like Manchester City or whatever, they can just buy another one, and that's what I think they will be doing. I think they will. I think Zach Eflin is an outside chance of going over to the Dodgers, or maybe even someone like Trevor Rogers, who again comes out of nowhere, but potentially could give us something in return. It's a bit of a strange one at the moment with the Orioles pitching, because we've been so bad. Why anyone would want our pitchers, but they've shown they can, just not every day.
And then the last I could also have Alcantara going to the Padres, but the last landing spot for Sandy Alcantara at the deadline, it's going to take a lot to get him. I think obviously because he's got he'll have 2.5 seasons of control. 2 years after the season is the Baltimore Orioles. I think he is someone exactly what we need. However,
can we get him?
Can we get him, or can we get him in the off season? Because I know, as I said, he's had an elevated ERA, but now in June, the 2.74 ERA across 4 starts.
It'd be interesting to know if he's got any no trade clauses in there or clubs that he won't go to, because especially if he's been under contract for a few seasons, the Orioles would probably be on that no trade list, because why would you? Obviously, since then, we've actually been half decent until this season. But it will be an absolute coup. But the problem I have with it is who you give up for it, because there's not many top-notch prospects that we would allow to be touched, because you're not going to touch Samuel, you're not going to touch Heston maybe, but why would you? He's got a high ceiling, Heston. He just hasn't shown it yet. He's only batting about 180. It's something to think about.
Could you put a deal again?
Yep.
It is gonna take an awful lot to bring him in. So number 2 on mine, Freddie Peralta from the Brewers.
Yep.
He's steady. He averages 140 innings pitch a year across the last 4 years, with an average of with an ERA of 3.39. His fastball velo is at 95 miles an hour this season, and it's only an $8 million option for him next year. So I did again. I had the Red Sox, but I've got a discount them from any trade talk as buyers. So I've got Astros, Blue Jays, the Cardinals, Diamondbacks. They've lost 2 definitely to Tommy John.
Yeah,
I think maybe 3, and obviously Padres and Orioles. So
indeed,
that's 2 of my 5.
Yeah, all of the MLB press is saying don't trade him, but ultimately, no one's untradeable if the right deal can be had. So there are clubs with a lot of prospects that could come Milwaukee's way, because they're not setting the world alight again. No. I don't think he goes to the Red Sox, absolutely. In fact, I don't think, as we've said already, anyone would, in their right minds, want to go to the Red Sox at the moment. Not that he gets a choice, of course. But it's certainly a decision for Milwaukee. Do they trade him in and get some prospects for him? It's a big ask, but a big question. But people need reliable arms, and that's the key. Definitely.
So we've done 2 each. Let's hear your 3 and 4.
So 3 and 4, Seattle Mariners. So they've been rough. I mean, even we beat them when we were over there. But they're still second place in the AL West. There's a lot of good players there, but they need an upgrade. Probably the corner infields, first and third. They need a right fielder as well. And unfortunately, that could play into the hands of the Ramon brothers, because if you want someone for third and you want a right fielder, you've potentially got Laureano and Urias, and that will be absolutely gutting for us, because we've been their biggest fans this season, that's for sure. And there's 2 of our best players at the moment, but they really haven't picked up. They picked up, was it Leody Tavares? He didn't fill the right field hole that they had. They also need bullpen help, but we'll come to bullpens later. But they do need quite a lot of outfielders just to pick them up and cement their second place to get playoffs. And I mean, it's always going to be hard in the West against other teams. The Angels aren't particularly brilliant, but it's always going to be a tough one. The Astros are over there as well, who are always hot. So, yeah, that's my number 3. 4, Kansas City Royals need someone in pretty much every single position. They take anyone. Their offense is crazy bad.
My number 3 is somebody going away from the Royals.
Yeah, but that's pitching rather than outfit.
Yeah,
their offense is. I mean, ours is not brilliant, but theirs is a complete mess. There's a few players that are there, but most of their outfielders combined minus 0.6 wins above replacement. That's their whole outfield, all 3 of them. So they could pick up anyone. I know Sedi, we've talked about as well, but they desperately need something. It's a difficult one, but they need to bring 2 or 3 players in if they want to carry on and be competitive.
Definitely.
And last for me is Boston Red Sox. They were on my list, but I put a big red X through them because I think they'll be absolutely selling. They won't be taking anyone else in this year because I think they'll finish last in the AL East, hopefully.
Right. So, yeah, I know. I mean, I think the Red Sox will finish last. I said
You said that quite a while ago, to be fair.
June. Come the end of June, the O's wouldn't be the worst team in the AL East. As it stands, that's going to be the case. However, come the end of July, we won't. So, number 3 for me, you just mentioned in there, is bringing Bat in. I have Seth Lugo on the move, starting pitcher for the Kansas City Royals. Now, he posts a mid 3.0 or lower ERA over the last 5 seasons. He doesn't have fastball velocity.
Yep.
And he has decent but not great strikeout rates. However, the ability he has to strand runners and limit hard contacts comes in part to the fact that his pitching arsenal consists of 9 different pitches. Yeah. So you've got the curveball, 4-seam, sinker, cutter, change-up, the slurve, the slider, the sweeper, and he has got the split finger, although he's only throwing that 0.6% of the time. It's in his arsenal. So that's what you're up against. I think the biggest with Seth Lugo is come the end of the season, he is going to be kind of in the region of a Nathan Eovaldi type contract. Nathan Eovaldi signed the 3-year, $75 million contract. Yep. That is what is awaiting Lugo in free agency. So it's gonna, teams that are going to take him, they are going to need the finances for him. So
yeah. So there's 2 things there, isn't there? One, he could go to a team as a rental, and a bit like you get him in for that season, and then you're not going to sign him. You give him a qualifying offer, which means that you get a draft pick back. Or do you go to someone that wants you, and you give him all the love and all the attention and cuddles, and say, right, we want you to be our number 1 pitcher going next season, the season after. So we're getting you in here, and we're going to give you that $75 million 3-year contract on the back of it, as long as you're half decent.
Yeah, and I think the Royals aren't going to be putting that money up. I think they will move him, and obviously, the Cole Rowland's shoulder injury, if that doesn't improve, he's definitely going to be on the way. So I've got him going.
Go on, go for it.
I've got him at the Cubs.
Yep, that was who I have on my list of where he's going to go. Cubs for some prospects.
I've got the Astros, possibly. We don't know the way that they work. Mike Elias was there. I've got them possibly taking on a short-term rental. Blue Jays,
Very
Padres,
possible.
And I think the most likely one is probably the Dodgers.
And because you've named 5 teams, that immensely increases his value in prospects, because any front office worth their salt will be setting one off against the other. The Dodgers want him, the Cubs want him, the Astros want him. So the price is going to go up. If you're big enough to get that 3-year deal off the back of it, then you can give up some of your prized assets because you've got something for 3.5 years. Therefore, I think it's going to be one of the big guns that will get him. And I wouldn't be surprised. The Blue Jays think they're big guns. I think they may well try and land him. The Dodgers, the problem with the Dodgers is Seth Lugo knows, yes, he'll probably get the money, but there's a lot of other people there as well.
Yeah.
That would he be the number 1? No, absolutely not. Whereas he probably would be at the Blue Jays. So if that's what he wants, and he likes Canadians, then he could well be off to the Rogers Stadium.
And then number 4 on my list, Luis Severino from the Athletics, starting pitcher. It's an intriguing one. He has a kind of middling strikeout rate, so his upside is limited to he's a number 3-4 guy in the rotation. With that though, teams are intrigued by his road numbers because he has a 0.93 ERA in 38 and 2/3 innings over 6 starts, without a home run allowed this season on the road. The downside, he's got 2 more years at 47 million.
Yeah, he's overpaid, isn't he? He would appear to be. If you're a number 3 or 4 starter, you shouldn't really be commanding, what is he, a 3-year, 67 million contract. Am I surprised that he's doing better away than at home? No, because they've got a Little League ballpark at Sacramento. Yeah. So it's not going to... I mean, we laugh about the Tampa Bay Rays and having Little League ballpark.
And the Yankees.
And the Yankees, and I've mentioned that as well many times, that even Yankee Stadium is a Little League ballpark, and that's why people like, Judge can score so many home runs. We'll come to that in maybe a little bit when we talk about Cal Raleigh. But it's a tough one. It's a lot to pick up, but he's not a rental. He's under your control for 2.5 years, so he's a bit of a different prospect. He could possibly go to one of the smaller teams because he's then under control. They can give away some prospects. You've got him for 2.5 years.
So I've got him going to the Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
The Cubs.
Possibly.
The Mets is an outsider because we know the finances that the Mets have.
Yeah, they've got it.
I think you could walk past. I don't even know what the name of it. I forgot the name of their ballpark. You could walk past
the MetLife Stadium, isn't it?
The MetLife. I think you could walk past the MetLife Stadium and ask the owner for $100, and he'd just give it to you. He throws money.
Yeah, I might try that. I'm in New York in about 3 weeks' time, so I agree. I see him. I think the Cubs are probably high on that list, and then the sources are saying that they're talking at the moment because you've got to get your balls in place for that to happen.
And the Orioles.
We'd have to join them in.
Just in regards to we've seen what happened at the end of last season going into this season. We put all our eggs in one basket with Corbin Burns.
Yep, and it failed.
The other two, free agents, aces, if you were to call them that, landed in the division. Although obviously Buehler has had an absolute stinker. Max Fried has pitched out of his skin up in New York.
Yep.
So for the O's next season, they need to start kind of putting all the ducks in a row and going, are we getting one or two in?
Absolutely. If you're going to almost give up on this season, you still need to set up for next season because otherwise you're in full rebuild mode. And we've discussed this. And in fact, all the beat writers that we've had on have all erred towards the same thing. You've got, even if you give qualifying offers, you've got to have plan B sitting there. Because otherwise you end up going back to it's going to be Albert Suarez as our number 1 pitcher next year, and that doesn't bear thinking about. Whilst I like Albert Suarez,
he could also be back this season as well. I know
he could. He's gone very quiet, hasn't it? And I know they mentioned
been playing catch this week, so
bless. So it's nice. We'll just send him out and play catch. That'll be fine. But it was 109 feet. Yeah, okay. So what does that mean? He can throw a ball. Yeah. I can't throw a ball 109 feet because I threw it out when I was playing cricket, but that's life.
Who's your number 5 then? In your top 5, who's 5?
So number 5 was the Padres, which I know I mentioned them earlier on because they need left field and catcher, but in order it was Yankees, Mets, Mariners, Kansas City Royals, and then number 5, the Padres, because they need a catcher badly. So I think Gary Sanchez could be on the way to the Padres for some minor league prospects, and I don't think it will hurt us that much.
Yeah, I think that is, as I said before, the Sanchez thing. I think it depends on.
Depends on the other 3.
On Adley and the other 3. So my number 5. So I've got a number 5, and then I have a kind of a left field one. Yeah, where I'm thinking, like are we? Yeah. So number 5 for me. I've got Zach Eflin leaving the Orioles.
Yep.
May come as a shock because to coin a phrase that we use north of England, he's been piss poor. This season, he's in a contract year, which is even more baffling. We're saying that Cedric Mullins was in a contract year at the start of the season. He was lights out, and he's
and now he's shit.
He's drifted off like Tom Hanks's best mate in Castaway, Wilson. So, he had a ERA he had a 3.59 ERA last year. It's up to 5.46 this season.
Yeah, he's had a couple of blowouts, hasn't he, which has not helped.
But his underlying numbers are still solid. They're still there. He is more of an inning. He can eat innings.
Yep.
He isn't going to be a monster strikeout guy. That's never been what he's about. He's going to be a number 4 starter.
Yep. Which puts it in perspective because he's their number 1 starter, and he anywhere else he'd be a 4 or 5. Get that. I agree with you. I think Zach will be gone. I think all of the pitching moves that we've been playing with over the last weeks and months have been trying to see if we've got anything to replace him internally. I'll let the front office know at the moment. No, we haven't. We've got nothing. We've got Trevor Rogers. Yeah, but Trevor Rogers has replaced Cade Povich.
Yeah.
So Cade Povich is a number 5 starter for me, and I don't think he will ever be anything better. I see him potentially doing something very similar to Zach Britton, where he was a left-handed starter, ended up being a left-handed reliever, and ended up being a closer because he can pitch for odd innings. He just can't pitch for more than 3. But Zach, I think they've been trying things. Do I see him going? Yes, I do, because when you spoke to Jacob back a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the qualifying offers, I don't think you give Zach Eflin a qualifying offer because at the moment he'll go.
He takes it.
He takes it, and you go, bollocks, that didn't work.
No.
Hey, you're meant to say no when we get a second round draft pick. No, I think he'd take it. Now, much as I like him as a player. He's honest. He's very sincere. I think we trade him. Again, all of the clubs we mentioned, the Cubs, Dodgers probably not, but would we trade to the Blue Jays? Don't know. But there are various places that Zach could land, and we could get something. Again, it would be a rental, but it's a low risk rental for someone because at the end of the year, you can just let him go.
Yeah. So, as a number 4 or 5, that's who he is. But teams always need those kinds of players to help back up. Your top 3. So, Astros perfect fit. Could you see him going to the Padres? I don't know. And then the Cubs.
Is he good at throwing at opposition players? He'd be fitting well at the Padres at the moment.
Yeah, Cubs, and then I've got the Braves, but obviously it depends on where the Braves are come.
Buy or sell, yeah.
The Cubs could be another one. As I say, the Cubs and O's are in this similar position where the Cubs have had outstanding seasons as well. By the way, however, they struggle with pitching depth in their starting rotation. So
so it could be a good. It could be a good fit. It could well be.
Yeah. So that's where I think those 5 pitchers are going to end up. Now, a kind of honourable mention, but I don't really want to have to say it, but it's an intriguing one.
I know where you're going.
I'm not so keen on it. I know there's a big thing on team control, and you're not going to give up your 2.5 years. I'm dropping a few clues here. Not going to give up 2.5 years of team control on somebody. Look, this isn't me saying, by the way, full disclosure. This isn't me saying that I.
Does he wear number 78 by any chance? Yeah.
I don't want to see him leave ever,
no,
ever,
not at all.
ever. However, ESPN has him as a 15% chance of a trade at the deadline.
I'm with you. I would hate to see him go. He epitomizes. I mean, he was nothing before he came to the Orioles, and that's not saying he was just a minor league pitcher. They've converted him into one of the best relievers in baseball, without
Best
a
closer
shadow
in
of a doubt.
baseball.
Best closer. He's got 100-mile-an-hour up his, and I'll still go back, and he can strike Aaron Judge out quite nicely, which he's always. He is such almost a mellow but a great addition to your team. People will be wanting to get him, and as we spoke before this pod, I bring it back to a trade that the Orioles did back in 2009 when George Sherrill was our closer. He was the best closer in baseball at the time, and we traded him for 2 minor league prospects. We got bugger all for him, and he had 2.5 years left of his contract. So there's too many similarities. Good thing is George Sherrill wore number, I think it was 52, so he didn't wear 78. So that's the only similarity, and he was quite a short person, not someone that was 6'23" that Felix is. But I don't see it happening.
Felix is, he's, as we discussed earlier about pitchers coming back from Tommy John. He's come back from Tommy John.
Yep.
And it took him a while. We started seeing flashes of it, and then when Tony Matalino went through a couple of series of where he's playing back to back, and we were a bit concerned for that. Yep. But I think Matalino was being proved that it was about getting him ready and building that back up. And but through June, he didn't need to pitch last night because we won the game by 14 runs. Rays.
Did we? Amazing.
But through June, 8 innings, 1 hit, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, with an ERA at 0.00.
There you go.
He does have another 2 years, and that's the good thing for us. And if anybody was to come in for him, the best closer in baseball,
the key
you're
for
giving
me,
up talent, you're giving up established players, not.
The key for me is the loyalty as well, because we gave him a new contract whilst he was on Tommy John. So we signed him to a new contract in that time because it was the right thing to do. And that's, people always talk about the wrong things to do. The right thing to do is to pick up a player that's badly injured that you don't actually know is going to come back and give him that new contract. And they did, and he's rewarded us with it. And I'm sure if the right deal were to come along, there'll be lots of heads being scratched about what to do. But it's got to be a mega haul to get any consideration of Felix leaving the.
I think the only teams and the fit for him, Dodgers. They
can afford him. They can afford the prospects to come across. If they've got any, because obviously they've been good for a while, so their prospects are not going to be in the high levels. No, but they don't need prospects. They can just buy him. They can just buy another player, can't they?
Could the Tigers do something? Is this the best team in the?
Make the best team better.
Baseball.
I think anyone could, because he will make any team better. Yeah. But it's how much you want to give up for it, and whether you want to gamble away the riches of 2 or 3 years to get wins today, where you're probably going to win anyway. Yeah, it's a tough one.
So that was just a mention. A few people had a few weeks ago. It started notion that there was a couple of murmurs. Could Bautista.
It's going to be very interesting over the next few weeks.
I don't think so. But
no, not necessarily. I'm hoping it's going to be the most boring trade deadline for the Orioles ever. That we haven't done anything, because that tells us something. It tells us that whilst we would like a couple of players in, it's going to be difficult to get them in at the moment. Not the right players, because there are many more competing teams to outgun us on money. But let's see.
So, and this is going to lead us on to our next little section. I think there is as much chance of Cal Raleigh winning the AL MVP than there is Felix Bautista being traded at the deadline. Discuss.
I agree. Now, I have never been not vocal about how much I dislike Aaron Judge. He, as
Is
a
that
player,
just because he plays for the Yankees?
so yes, some of it. He's arrogant. He wasn't a high prospect. He was something like 9th round or something like that. It's just everything that goes with him. I dislike.
Round
yes,
1, pick 32 he was.
there you go. So he's not a massively high draft pick, but notwithstanding that, he is an outstanding hitter. He's not an outstanding outfielder. He's all right.
Yep.
I mean, let's face it, if he was playing for the Orioles, he'd be a brilliant player and we'd love him to death. But we can never like anyone that plays for the Yankees. It's just the way life is, unfortunately. And if you're listening to an O's podcast, you'd expect us to say exactly that. But I don't think there's any chance of Cal Raleigh ousting him. I think Aaron Judge is too good. I mean, what's he batting? He's batting over 370 normally without even worrying about it.
So currently, Aaron Judge, so on the season, 360 plate appearances, 302 at-bats, 70 runs scored, 101 hits, 28 home runs,
101 hits. We're in June. We used to pray one of our...
Yeah, 108 hits.
108 hits. That's absolutely crazy.
Batting 358 with, with an OBP of 458, slugging .712 with an OPS of 1.170.
There you go. You've said the magic number, OPS of over 1. He's a once-in-a-lifetime player. He can hit anything. He does play in a little league ballpark, which we'll always get in because it's at Yankee Stadium, so he's always going to get a lot of home runs. However, Cal Raleigh, I think the big dumper, as they call him, is probably a one-season wonder, and we've seen enough of those. We've seen Chris Davis be a one-season wonder, and he's going to cost us till about 2093 with his contract that he got off the back of it. Now, don't get me wrong, a switch hitting catcher on target for 66 home runs. I think the only way he can possibly do it is if he goes over 70 home runs, and he might just squeeze Aaron Judge out. But it's going to be a fight all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But switch hit, I can't even say it today. Switch hitters don't tend to continue that productivity because it's a bit easier to find you out because you're bound to be stronger from one side or the other.
Yeah.
I can't see it, but he's doing pretty well.
I think one thing for certain is how, when you look at the numbers and what both players are doing, it's history making stuff. You know, this season offense has been hard to find.
Yep.
I was looking at stats before. So when 20 qualified pitchers have an ERA of under 3.00 and 27 relievers with at least 20 innings pitched have an ERA of under 2.00. What Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh are doing is history making.
Yep.
We know what Judge can do. 62 home runs in 22, 58 in 24. You know, he's become the first player to slug .700 since Barry Bonds.
Yep.
And he is continuing to put up numbers that not only that exceed those numbers. Look, Aaron Judge is having a 12 wins above replacement season. It's been done by 5 other people. Barry Bonds did it twice. I think Lou Gehrig did it once. Babe Ruth.
Yeah, so he's in the top. He's in the top echelon all time.
Yeah, it's just scary what he's doing, and this isn't taking it away. I know Cal Raleigh had the dig, kind of a subtle dig about Aaron Judge hitting small park home runs.
Yep.
Cal Raleigh has hit 17 home runs this season. I think 350 feet or less. Let me just get that. I saw the stat before and I was like, and you can't be throwing shade on Judge if you've had 17 below. I mean, I haven't checked what. So 14 home runs in 2025 by Cal Raleigh have been 370 feet or shorter.
Which are little league ballparks. Yeah. But you've got to be in it to win it. And just because the ballpark's small, I mean, I'm almost contradicting myself on Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge is always at Yankee Stadium, so therefore he's always in a very small, hitter-friendly ballpark. The other thing to note for Cal Raleigh is he's a catcher, and we know at our risk that catchers are very, very easy to disable, not from your batting, but you only have to get a foul tip, hits your non-catching hand, and you're out for a while. We've had it with catchers all the time, so the risk for him is that he'll fall off.
I mean, we spent the last year kind of working out what had gone wrong with Adley, and it obviously come out the hand issue that he missed a bit of time with last year.
Yep.
Or I think he sat a couple of games, didn't go on the IL, was a reoccurring thing, and kind of now that's been sorted. I've seen Adley. I like Cal Raleigh.
I do.
I don't think it's going to be sustained.
We managed to contain him slightly.
30 home runs before.
He has. He did. Was it 34 last season?
Yeah.
Last year was career high 34.
Now,
indeed, his second
he's
half
on pace
always
for
falls
65.
off. Yeah, his second half normally does fall off though, and that's not surprising because catching every day is a job and a half because it wears your body out. He will be wanting to play every day, not necessarily as a catcher, but with a bit of DH as well. And that, as we know with Adley, it puts strain on the body and you might overtry. So I can't see it. I can only see Aaron Judge being the MVP. He deserves it, to be fair. And that's hard from an Orioles fan. But he is the best hitter in baseball. Full stop.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? On Aaron Judge, 10 seasons in the big leagues.
Seems like 20.
Yeah, his career average is 293. His career OPS is 1.023. He's got 300. He's got 343 home runs. Does he by the end of his career get to the 700 mark? Does he get to 753? Barry Bonds? Does he?
You see, how old is he now? Must be early 30s.
33. So
he's got probably 3 or 4
10 years,
3 or 4 seasons in the field, and then probably DH for the rest of his career, which will probably help him because he won't have the day-to-day rigours of going out and walking 5 yards to the outfield at Little League Yankee Stadium. But I don't think he gets to that mark. I think he does fall off, but he's been incredible so far. And absolute Hall of Famer without a shadow of a doubt. It could probably go in there today, to be honest. If you could do it while they're still playing, they could. Statue, absolutely. But unfortunately, it'll be with pinstripes on, which grates with a lot of people. But they can't help it. You can't help who you get drafted by, can you?
No, and there's this thing in sports, especially in American sports, rings. I'm a huge Ravens fan. Lamar Jackson walks into the Hall of Fame. He's your first round. He's a first-time ballot Hall of Famer, without a shadow of a doubt. He is number 6 on rushing yards in the NFL of all time. He's going to be number 1. He's only a few hundred yards behind Christine McCaffrey. But the argument always is he hasn't got a ring. And as a Ravens fan, it's frustrating that he hasn't got a ring. But also it's about taking, team success away from it when you have these Hall of Fame discussions.
Yeah,
because baseball is an individual. Although it's a team, it is individual.
It's not only you don't necessarily choose where you start, but you then give them the loyalty and your career and stay there. There's got to be something said for that. Yes, you won't necessarily get a World Series ring for one, or you won't get the ring for everything else. To be honest, I'm with you. It shouldn't be a pre-qualifier for going in the Hall of Fame because it's how you are. It's how, as a person, you are. It's how you perform. And if your stats and your ratings are the highest, then why wouldn't you be an automatic Hall of Famer?
Yeah,
But
I
get it.
Yeah, it's just that ring argument it does baffle me because so many sports stars across the US, and that's the kind of first thing: championships, and
Yeah, I mean, but there are players that have been bit part players that get a ring, and I won't begrudge this
short-term
person.
rentals.
Well, someone like Trey Mancini, for instance. So Trey Mancini was absolutely brilliant for us, comeback player of the year, but got a MLB ring because he was at the Astros at the time when they won the World Series. Did he do a lot in the... No, but it doesn't matter. It was where he was at the time. So it can be taken both ways, can't it?
It can. And just a quick one before we wrap up, because we've been going an hour now.
Hey.
The state of the AL East, where do you see it? Come the deadline, it's a couple of weeks away now.
So I did a quick recce of where we are, because obviously we concentrate so much on the Orioles. We try not to look at the Yankees are doing Yankee things, which we love to say. They're very much hit and miss. 5-5 over the last 10. 1.5 game lead thanks to us, because they won last night, and we did we mention that we won 22-8 against the Rays?
No, I don't think so. Was that after being 6-0 down as well?
That was absolutely first MLB team in history to be 6-0 down and win by 14 runs or more.
I'd heard rumours about it. I didn't know it was confirmed.
Didn't see that. But they're on target for 94 wins. I think they'll be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. I can't see them dropping away too much, especially if they get something at the trade deadline, whether it be a second baseman or something. The Rays, now, we tend to be Ray beaters at the moment. Now, that never used to be said. We used to hate playing the Rays. We used to be 0 forever against the Rays, but we're doing okay. We split the series 2-2 away. We're winning 1-0. Did we mention that one? In this one, they got a team of no big superstars. I think they've got a good team. I think if they can keep it going, then they're going to be the Baltimore Orioles of last year. They'll probably be the second team. Blue Jays, a very big series coming up, because they've got a 4-game series against the Yankees coming up. So that
they're currently playing the Red Sox.
Absolutely. So they beat them last night, 9-0. I think they'll probably...
Huge for us in the division, obviously.
Absolutely.
The Blue Jays and Red Sox playing each other, us playing the Rays, and then the Blue Jays playing the Yankees.
Absolutely. So it's good. If they can... I think they might win the series against the Yankees, and that will really put the cat amongst the pigeons, because they'll be very, very close to them. Yeah. But they've got to do something in the trade deadline to bring it forward. Definitely. If they bring the wrong people, it could have the opposite effect. It could really plummet them down the rankings and come down and visit the Red Sox. And, well, let's put the Orioles, then the Red Sox. The Red Sox, it's always nice to see them losing big. I think they're in free fall at the moment. We've said that for a little while. We're sneaking up on them, but we haven't gone on that 8-game winning streak again that we need to. Is it 6 or 7 games in a row that they've lost?
The 3-7, the last 10, lost 6.
Yeah. We're 5-5, so we've snuck up 2 games on them, but not overly close. So it's between 3 teams at the top. If we go on that run that we've been promising, we could possibly scrape in at the bottom. But I think the division, apart from the Red Sox and us at the moment, are very much of a muchness at the moment and very close.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned it. I think come post deadline, if it doesn't happen before the deadline, I think come post deadline we'll leapfrog the Red Sox. I think they are going to be massive sellers come the deadline.
I agree.
We've mentioned it a few times in previous episodes. Bregman, he's got another 2 years, 47 million a year. The next 2 years, but he can opt out. I think he is going to opt out. It'd be interesting to see if he does it as well.
I think they might.
I think Duran moves on.
I think they ditch him before he opts out. That's the thing, because opting out, you get bugger all back. Whereas if if you trade him now, at least you're going to get something for him. But he's probably got quite a few no trade clauses in his contract, I would think. So, be interesting where he can go.
So. I should imagine so. And then, well, obviously for the rest of our weekends, we've got we have the Rays. So we'll be back on. Are we recording Sunday?
So we've got Rays today at 9 English time. We've then got the Rays again 6:35 tomorrow. So if we are recording, it'll be a late one. We do have an off day on Monday, so
yeah. But no, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining our new kind of side show, which will stay within O's Across the Pond. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly something different, and we can certainly look at getting some feedback on what content you'd like on there, because let's face it, if it's baseball, we'll talk about it, because not only are we Orioles fans, we actually pretty much love the sport of baseball, no matter who's playing, unless it's the Yankees, of course.
Of course, definitely. We also need kind of a show name. Obviously, the main show goes across the pond. We need a name for our separate little show. So
we'll set the voting going. The Itchy and Scratchy show could be one of them, but I'm sure it'll be something better than that.
Definitely. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. We've been O's Across the Pond. I've been Thomas. He's been Andy. We'll see you on the next one. Bye now.
See you next time.
That's it for this episode of O's Across the Pond, bringing Birdland to Europe one episode at a time. Be sure to subscribe, share and follow along as we keep the Orioles conversation going from this side of the Atlantic. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud and let's go O's!